Hi friends, Andrew Goodall here again from Nature's Image Photography, and today I'm looking at a little project you might like to try with your Panasonic Lumix G9. Recently I made a video about the G9 super high speed burst mode, featuring a bunch of different subjects, but this series of water balloon shots was the sequence that really seemed to grab people's attention. So I went out and did it again, but this time I took photos of the setup so you can see the full story on how it was done. Followers of this channel know I already made a video about this, but that was for DSLR cameras in general, so I left out some specific G9 features. So in this video I'm showing you exactly how I did it using the Panasonic Lumix G9, and perhaps some of you would like to give this a try for yourselves. Before we start, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, so you can stay up to date with all my content on the G9 and more. So first, let's take a look at the setup, and a big thank you to my friend Wendy for helping out. I'm sure some people thought this was all done using fancy studio lighting, but I can assure you it was much more basic than that. It was taken outdoors on a sunny day, and we picked a location right near a house that provided a big area of solid shadow. It's the contrast of the sunlight on the subject and the shadow on the grass that makes the balloon really stand out. So this shot was taken on the Panasonic Lumix G9, as we know, with the Leica Panasonic 100-400mm lens. The lens was only zoomed to just over 100mm, but it's important that you use some sort of telephoto for this. A wide-angle lens will encompass a lot of background and probably bring in patches of distracting sunlight, but the telephoto lens can really isolate a small area, helping me to frame the subject against a patch of dark background. Like all my photography, the shots were taken in manual mode. This allows me complete control over my exposure. That's important because with so much dark background, the camera would normally want to let in extra light, causing me to overexpose the balloon. These two shots show just how much difference that makes. This shot was taken with the light meter in the centre, so if I was shooting in auto, I would have had a little more light in the background and an overexposed balloon. But by setting my shutter speed several stops faster, I effectively underexposed the photograph to the point where the balloon's well lit and the background is almost black. Now those shots were just experimenting with my settings in the lead up, so now here are the settings I actually used for the photo featured in this video. The ISO was 400, increased from my preferred 200 because I wanted to keep the shutter speed fast. The aperture was f6.3, so I've closed it down a notch in the hope of getting a tiny bit more depth of field. And with a slightly smaller aperture, I changed my shutter speed to 2500 to maintain the exposure. When it comes to focus, I had my autofocus area mode set to single area, with the area reduced to the smallest size possible, and my autofocus mode is on AFS or autofocus single. This is important for two reasons. First, it allows me to focus and then keep the focus locked until I fully press the button when the big moment comes. Second, it allows me to make full use of the super fast pre-burst mode. Which brings me to the release mode, which, as I just said, is set to super fast pre-burst. Not only does it offer a very fast frame rate, it also starts taking photos the moment you're in focus. Then when you press the button, it records every photo you take, including photos taken up to 0.4 of a second before you press the button. This vastly improves your chances of nailing the perfect moment, because even if you press a bit too late, the camera has probably captured the moment anyway. I was using the SH Pre-2 option, which shoots it up to 60 frames per second using the electronic shutter, but only, and this is important, only if your focus is on AFS. If you use AFC or autofocus continuous, it slows down to 20 frames per second. 20 is usually fast enough for just about anything I do, but this is one time I wanted the fastest frame rate possible. Now, if you haven't watched me do this before, here's how I set up the SH2 mode on my camera. On the release mode dial, position 1 is for single shot shooting, i.e. one photo per press. The second and third spots on the dial are for burst shooting, and I have regular burst mode set to position 2, and position 3 is where I assign the super fast burst modes. To do that, I go into the first page of the menu and scroll down to where it says Burst Shot 2 setting. I press that and then select either the SH1 or in this case the SH2 pre option. Once assigned, all I need to do now is turn my release mode dial to position 3 and I'm good to go. And that, my friends, is pretty much the story of how this photo was taken. With the setup and my camera settings in place, it was simply a matter of saying 1, 2, 3, go, and I pressed the button as Wendy threw the dart. As you can imagine, with several attempts at 60 frames per second, I took a whole lot of shots. In fact, it was over 600 photos in about an hour, most of which are going to be deleted. Here's a bit more of the sequence that produced my favourite shot. Then it was just a matter of cropping the photo to get rid of the hands and a bit of editing of the contrast, and here's the final image I finished up with. So, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and most of all, if you're still getting to know your G9, I hope you learned something. Maybe this will even give you confidence to get out and try something like this for yourself. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe for more content coming soon on the G9. I'm Andrew Goodall, this is Nature's Image Photography. Thanks for watching.